The drug inside the girl's body began to take effect. With her hands bound, she was thrown into the bathtub. Just then, a man suddenly broke through the door. She thought she was finally saved. But instead of showing mercy, the man coldly demanded, "What's your connection to those people outside? Where is the Fu family's treasure hidden? If you don't confess, I'll make you wish you were dead." Her body burned hotter with every second, especially wherever the man touched, and she had no idea what was happening to her. To stay conscious, she bit her lip until it bled and This man was Fu Jincheng, heir to the most powerful family in Kyoto. With several sharp gunshots, Fu Jincheng shattered the iron chains on her wrists. He then lifted her out of the bathtub. After that, he ordered his bodyguards to send her to the hospital, while he stayed behind to continue searching for the stolen Fu family treasure. The moment the girl saw the scene outside the door, memories from her past life rushed back. Her name was Yan Cece, and she had once been burned alive in her apartment by her fiancé and stepmother. Now it was clear, she had truly died and been reborn 10 years earlier. What she was witnessing now was the very moment her stepmother, behind her father's back, sold her to human traffickers. Those traffickers were seasoned thieves. When they were about to close a big deal, they drugged Yan Cece, planning to use her for their amusement first. But unexpectedly, the Fu family discovered their trail, and the traffickers were completely wiped out. In her previous life, she had woken up in a hospital, only knowing that someone had saved her and paid her medical bills. Now she finally understood the truth. After piecing it all together, Yan Cece tugged lightly at the man's collar and whispered, "The Fu family's treasure is hidden in the tire of their van." I overheard it while they were drinking and talking. In reality, this was something she had learned from a news report in her past life. Fu Jincheng told her to focus on treatment at the hospital, promising to thank her once everything was over. Yan Cece shook her head and refused. "No need. Consider it my repayment for saving my life." In Fu Jincheng's arms, she felt a long-lost sense of safety, and soon drifted into a deep sleep. The woman had been drugged, her hands bound, and thrown into the bathtub. Fortunately, the domineering heir arrived in time, saving her from the nightmare. Fresh out of the hospital, she raised her head and roared to the sky, "Gao Su Lin Yen, heaven gave me a second chance. Last time you killed my father and stole the Yan family's fortune. This time I won't let you succeed." Just as the thought crossed her mind, a sudden whoosh snapped her out of it. Startled, she realized a man was standing across from her. It was none other than the Fu family's young master, Fu Jincheng, the one who had saved her earlier that day. Yan Cece glared at him furiously and demanded to know why he was here. Fu Jincheng stared at her in surprise. Somehow she felt completely different from the drugged, helpless girl in the hotel. Could it really have been the drug? Without hesitation, he cut straight to the point. "Tell me honestly, where did your information come from? I checked the hotel surveillance. They never once mentioned the Fu family's treasure. And as far as I know, you were only taken by them a few hours ago. There was no chance for you to overhear anything about the hiding place." Yan Cece replied coldly, as expected of young Master Fu, sharp as ever. "But sometimes it's wiser to play dumb. I only told you this to repay your kindness. If you choose to repay me with hostility, then next time I'll have to reconsider whether you're worth my honesty." Unexpectedly, Fu Jincheng suddenly slammed his hand against the wall, trapping her. Quite the tone. "So you really do know who I am?" Then, under the excuse of having something to tell her, he leaned in close, shattering the space between them. Yan Cece's cheeks flushed crimson, her heart pounding uncontrollably under the weight of his teasing aura. But to her shock, he suddenly smirked and said, "You just laughed like an idiot." Just as she was about to explode in anger, Fu Jincheng pulled out a lunchbox. With a playful smile, he said, "Here, eat it. I heard you skipped dinner." Yan Cece froze on the spot. She never expected this man to actually care about her. In her previous life, ever since her father's death, no one had ever cared for her like this again. Fu Jincheng caught a fleeting trace of loneliness in her eyes, and for the first time he felt that this girl was hard to read. But when he looked into the lunchbox, it was packed full of tiny fish. "What is this? Does she think I'm raising a cat?" Though speechless, she still devoured the food in big bites. "Thanks for the meal, young Master Fu. I'll pretend your earlier insult never happened." To her surprise, the man simply said, "From now on, call me by my name, Fu Jincheng." She wiped the grease from her lips, then extended her hand. "I'm Yan Cece, Come on, let's shake hands." Though he found her greasy little hand distasteful, he still reached out and clasped it. The moment their hands touched, both of their hearts began racing wildly like startled deer. As she arrived at the doorstep, the noise from inside hit her. Yan Cece suddenly remembered. Tonight was her stepmother Gao Xia's son, Yan Xinyao's coming-of-age banquet. The place was filled with elites from high society. She secretly rejoiced. The chance for revenge has come. Heaven is on my side. First, she located her old room, then climbed the wall and slipped inside. 5 minutes later, panting from exertion, she finally crawled in. Seeing the furnishings untouched, she knew her stepmother had sold her off but hadn't yet had time to seize the room for herself. She pulled out her gown, dressed up, and applied a flawless touch of makeup. Inwardly, she vowed, "Gao Xia, I'm back. Tonight I'll rip off your mask." Once everything was ready, she descended the stairs gracefully. "Good evening, Aunt Gao," she greeted. Her stepmother froze the moment she saw Yan Cece, whom she had sold off, standing in the middle of the party. Her pupils shook violently, and her hands trembled so hard the red wine spilled all over the guests. Panic flashed through her mind. She had seen with her own eyes Yan Cece being sold to a group of ruthless criminals. By now, Yan Cece should have been long dead at their hands, never again returning to fight Xinyao for the inheritance. Yan Cece's father, with a kind smile, said to his son, "Xinyao, your mother just told me Cece had another tantrum and ran away from home. I was planning to look for her after the banquet, but it seems your sister is still quite sensible." The younger brother kept his cheerful smile, but inwardly he was scheming. He would use his foolish sister as a foil tonight, making himself shine even brighter. Just as he finished imagining his triumph, he suddenly sensed that Cece looked different from before, though he couldn't say exactly how. Yan Cece, however, stared at them with razor-sharp eyes. The naive girl who once let herself be trampled on no longer existed. From this day on, she would never again allow this mother and son to run rampant and ruin the Yan family. She now had the strength to protect her father. At the corner of the banquet hall, a man's burning gaze fixed on her. "So she's really here. Looks like tonight will be interesting." Cece then stepped forward, beginning her performance. "Happy birthday, dear brother. Aunt Gao, why didn't you tell me about this in advance?" Her tone shifted into a mocking sneer. "This afternoon, you fed me a pile of sleeping pills saying I should rest more. Luckily, I woke up early. Otherwise, I would have missed my brother's birthday banquet." Her stepmother rushed to deny it. "How could that be? You said you weren't feeling well, so I let you rest. For your brother's birthday. We're family. There's always time to celebrate." Father Yan looked puzzled. Gao Xia had told him earlier that Cece ran away in a tantrum, yet now she claimed Cece was just resting at home. It seemed he needed to have a serious talk with her. Yan Cece feigned surprise. "So what Aunt Gao means is that family members shouldn't even attend this kind of banquet. Then I truly must be intruding." Her words immediately stirred discontent among some of the relatives. The stepmother hurriedly gave a sloppy excuse, then quickly ordered Cece to cut the cake for her brother. In her mind, Cece was only worthy of serving her son in such menial ways. Cece sneered, "Aunt Gao, are you saying I should learn to be frugal by doing the servant's work too?" Intimidated by her sharp gaze, the stepmother staggered back in fear. Father Yan, doting as always, stepped forward and pulled Cece to his side to sing the birthday song together. The guests began whispering among themselves, recalling how the stepmother had married into the Yan family through less than honorable means. Her act of being a loving mother was clearly nothing but a facade. Seeing his mother in tears, Xinyao immediately stepped up to cause trouble for Cece. In front of everyone, he demanded to know what gift she had prepared, pointedly adding that their stepmother gave her plenty of pocket money. Surely her present wouldn't be anything ordinary. Cece exposed her stepmother on the spot, revealing that she only received 200 yuan of allowance every 3 months, and only if she completed housework. Then she announced she would bless her brother in another way. Borrowing a violin from one of the musicians, she performed a piece that would become world-famous 5 years later. The moment the melody flowed, it stunned every guest in the hall. Only her stepmother trembled with rage, humiliated in front of everyone, so furious she almost wanted to strangle Cece right then. When she caught Fu Jincheng, the ever-cold and untouchable heir, openly showing admiration towards Cece, her fury nearly consumed her. Xinyao, seeing his mother pushed to this point, rushed forward to interrupt and publicly accused Cece of cheating, claiming she was only playing a recording. At that moment, Fu Jincheng stepped up in her defense. If young Master Yan dislikes the gift, he can say so directly, but to slander the giver so viciously is beneath you. The sudden intervention of the icy and domineering Fu heir left the entire audience stunned. Even Cece herself blushed, her cheeks turning pink as her eyes fell on him. Fu Jincheng stepped forward and said calmly, "The piece was beautiful, just like its performer." She gave him a polite smile of thanks. Then she questioned the crowd. "Tell me, has anyone here ever heard the piece I just played? Can anyone here perform it?" Straightening her back, she declared, "Since my brother doesn't welcome me at this banquet, then I'll leave." With that, she strode out proudly. Only then did Father Yan realize how much he had overlooked while away from home. Inwardly, he was already considering divorce with Gao Suya. Having delivered a humiliating blow to her venomous stepmother, Yan Cece went to a bar, celebrating with a few drinks. But before she could even plan her next move, a group of thugs surrounded her. Just as she prepared to fight back with all her might, her phone suddenly rang. She barely tapped the answer button before one of them snatched her phone away and pinned her down. A red-haired man snarled, "The moment you leaked the cargo information, you sealed your fate. Now you'll pay the price." The call had been from Fu Jincheng, but it lasted barely a second before being cut off. Her phone then went dead. Alarmed, he feared Cece was in danger. Luckily, he had installed a tracker on her phone to protect her. With those men lurking in the shadows, Yan Cece as a key figure was at grave risk. Minutes later, he traced her last location to a bar and immediately rushed there with a team of bodyguards. But the kidnappers weren't after the Fu family's treasure. Instead, they wanted to force her to reveal the hiding place of a luminous pearl carried by the fat man who led them. Yet the Fu family treasure was something she had only read about in a news report from her past life. This luminous pearl she knew nothing about. She sneered in defiance. "Even if that fat man really had a natural night pearl, do you think he'd tell you where it's hidden? Who's the fool here, him or you?" Her words instantly enraged them. As her shoulder strap slipped down, the thugs' eyes turned vicious, their greedy stares locked onto Cece's body. Just as they closed in on her, Cece grabbed a shard of glass from the floor and slashed through the ropes binding her hands. When the red-haired man lunged forward, she fought back with all her strength and bolted for the door. Luckily, the one she ran into was Fu Jincheng. Had it been one of them, the outcome would have been unthinkable. Seeing her covered in bruises and scratches, Fu Jincheng clenched his teeth in fury. Cradling her in his arms, he ordered 50 bodyguards to hunt down the thugs. Even with the car windows closed, Cece could still hear the agonized screams of her attackers. Inside the car, Fu Jincheng held her tightly. The closeness in the confined space made her blush. "Can you let me go? I can sit on my own." But Fu Jincheng refused with domineering resolve. "Your body is freezing, you need warmth, or your injuries will only worsen." Her body did feel warmer now, but Cece couldn't help wondering, was it really from the heat, or from the intimate atmosphere making her cheeks flush red? Fu Jincheng cleared his throat, awkwardly shifting the subject. "This incident was tied to the Fu family. I'll cover all your losses in full. Tell me, is there anything you want?" Suddenly, Cece remembered. The thugs had thrown away her phone. Inside were photos of her mother who had passed away when she was only 4. If she lost that phone, those memories would be gone forever. With urgency, she asked Fu Jincheng if he could help retrieve it. Fu Jincheng was puzzled that he had promised full compensation, yet all Cece wanted was her old phone. Casually, he tossed her another device. "Take this one instead. Use it." Cece thanked him but firmly explained, "That phone holds pictures of someone very important to me. Please, I need it back." Without hesitation, Fu Jincheng called his assistant, ordering them to recover her phone at all costs. When Cece learned there was a chance to retrieve it, her face lit up with pure joy. Soon after, Cece drifted to sleep peacefully in Fu Jincheng's arms. Yet his heart grew heavy. He feared that the important person she spoke of might be someone she loved. Carrying her into the hospital, Fu Jincheng listened as Cece explained the reason behind tonight's kidnapping. "They took me because of the luminous pearl that fat leader was carrying. And tonight's kidnappers weren't the same group from the hotel. The people behind them aren't simple. You need to prepare in advance." A chill of fear lingered in her heart. If she were captured again without knowing why, She might never live to defeat her vicious stepmother and treacherous ex-fiancé. She couldn't die just yet. The domineering CEO who usually stayed detached from everything was now enraged, for her and her alone. After sending Yan Cece into the hospital, Fu Jincheng immediately called his vice president, ordering a full investigation into the people behind the luminous pearl. When he learned Cece had nearly been violated, fury surged through him like fire. He commanded coldly, "Beat those thugs until the mere sound of the name Yan Cece makes them too terrified to ever lay a hand on her again." Shin Chinga, vice president of the Fu group, was stunned. "Did I hear that right? Could it be that the boss has fallen for that girl? Incredible. The man who's been a sealed jar for 1,000 years is finally opening up." Without hesitation, he ordered his men to gather every detail about Yan Cece. This was the first person their boss had ever shown interest in. He had to be more attentive than the boss himself. An hour later, Cece was finally wheeled out of the observation room, only to find Fu Jincheng still waiting by her side. She looked at him with confusion. "Why are you still here? Don't you have work to do? I feel like you must be swamped with responsibilities." Thinking she didn't want to see him, Fu Jincheng made up an excuse. "Protecting you, a key figure, is also part of my job." But Cece still didn't get it. "Can't you just assign someone to follow me? Why come in person?" Right then, her stomach let out an audible growl. Without a word, Fu Jincheng dashed out to buy her breakfast. Cece finally realized, maybe young Master Fu was simply too idle. No wonder Yan Cece remained single. It suddenly made sense. And to prove just how overbearing he could be, Fu Jincheng, not knowing what she liked, told the shop owner, "Pack one of everything." When Fu Jincheng returned with his arms full of bags, Cece was stunned. Was he trying to move the entire breakfast shop here? Sure, she was hungry, but did he really need to feed her like a pig? In no time, the table was piled high with food, so much that she didn't even know where to start. Seeing her hesitate, Fu Jincheng thought nothing suited her taste and was about to head out to buy more. Startled, Cece quickly reassured him, "I like it all. I'm just afraid I can't finish it." Then she dug in heartily, worried he might actually bring back another truckload if she delayed. To ease her anxiety, Fu Jincheng said casually, "It's fine that if you can't finish, I'll eat the rest." His words left Cece dazed. That was the kind of thing only the closest people would say, but they weren't even that close, were they? Just then, reality struck her. She had been reborn 10 years earlier, and the most terrifying thing at the moment wasn't revenge. It was school starting. She had been so busy dealing with her vicious stepmother that she'd forgotten she was still a student. And with classes beginning tomorrow, her social practice form was still blank. Where was she supposed to get a company's stamp overnight? Yan Cece panicked. Without her social practice form, she couldn't graduate. And without graduation, there would be no steady source of income. Without steady income, how could she possibly protect the Yan family? Just as she was at a loss, her gaze fell on Fu Jincheng beside her. As the head of the Fu group, he had countless companies under his name. Getting a stamp from one of them would be nothing for him. Gathering her courage, Cece asked, "Young Master Fu, could you do me a favor? I don't have anything to repay you with right now. Maybe you could let me owe you this one?" Truly, men had no resistance against a cute girl. That playful, "let me owe you," was like a critical hit. Fu Jincheng hadn't seen it coming. He looked utterly baffled. What on earth was in this woman's head? Owe me? Even with all the treasures he owned, what could he possibly be lacking? Seeing the troubled look on his face, Cece thought her request was too much and was about to drop the matter. But to her surprise, Fu Jincheng suddenly nodded in agreement. It seemed the domineering Xiao had truly fallen. He even thought that exchanging Cece herself wouldn't be a bad deal. Cece casually made up an excuse for why she hadn't completed her social practice and used it to ask him for help with the stamp. The truth was, in her previous life, her stepmother had kept her locked up so tightly she couldn't even step out of the house, let alone complete any assignments. Hearing this, Fu Jincheng almost laughed. For something this trivial, she wanted to owe me. She really thought too little of him, and after all, she had already helped retrieve the Fu family's treasure. Even if she hadn't, he would have helped anyway, for no other reason than that she suited his taste. He immediately told her to hand over the social practice form so he could stamp it on the spot. Thrilled by his quick response, Cece lifted her blanket and prepared to head home to fetch it. But before she could get up, Fu Jincheng suddenly pressed her back down onto the hospital bed. His voice was firm and commanding. "Stay put and healed, I'll send someone to get it." Cece stared at him in shock, her mind racing. Is Fu Jincheng worried about me? Could it be he actually likes me? But in the next second she calmed herself. Her past life had taught her the harshest lesson. Love was the most unreliable, the most fatal thing in this world. Besides, in this lifetime she had far more important goals. She couldn't let herself be tangled up in romance. Quickly she shifted the topic. "Young Master Fu, make sure to send a girl disguised as my classmate to fetch the practice report that I don't want to give my stepmother any leverage against me." Yet Fu Jincheng was already bewitched by her beauty. Even after she finished speaking, he still didn't move away. A dangerous urge rose within him, to claim her right then and there. But reason warned him, it wasn't the right time. From the first moment he saw Yan Cece at the hospital entrance, he'd sensed her guardedness. If he pushed her now, he would only frighten her. With that thought, he straightened up and immediately called his men, ordering them to handle her practice report. Just then word came in, they had found her lost phone. His men asked for instructions. Should they deliver it directly or first decrypt its contents and show them to her? Fu Jincheng glanced at Yan Cece, recalling how she had clung to her phone even while injured, insisting it held photos of someone very important to her. Could it be a lover? The thought stabbed sharply at his chest that he wanted desperately to know what she was guarding, what secrets she was hiding. Perhaps if he decrypted her phone he could uncover those secrets, gain control over her, and ultimately make her his. But in the end his desire to respect her outweighed his suspicion that he refused his subordinate's suggestion and ordered them to deliver the phone immediately. Hanging up, Fu Jincheng was about to leave, only to catch the look on Cece's face as if she couldn't wait for him to go. Irritated, he decided not to leave after all. Cece froze. If this man stayed any longer, her forced polite smile was going to crack. So she asked bluntly about his connection to her stepmother. Why had he appeared at the birthday banquet? Anyone tied to that woman was someone she had to be wary of. Hearing her question, Fu Jincheng felt a pang of disappointment. Cece was sharp enough to see through everything, except his heart. Fu Jincheng finally said it outright. "The reason I attended that birthday banquet was because of you." His plan was simple but calculated. First, make Cece feel indebted to him, then use that debt to secure her agreement to attend the charity gala as his date. That alone would send ripples through the entire business world. Afterward, he would discreetly leak the story to the media. Soon, everyone would know. Yan Cece was Fu Jincheng's woman. With that, no one would dare lay a finger on her. It was a move that crushed all rivals before they could even emerge. Truly a masterful game of chess. The Kyoto Charity Gala was an international event, one countless people would kill to attend. Cece found it hard to believe that Fu Jincheng of all people would lack a companion. She even wondered if there was some kind of trap. Still, the opportunity was too valuable to pass up. It might even prove useful against her vicious stepmother in the future. I'll play it by ear when the time comes, she thought. After all, this man wouldn't harm her. With that, she agreed. All right, then contact me when the time comes, young Master Fu. The moment she said yes, Fu Jincheng already considered Yan Cece his. Satisfied, he left the hospital ward. Just after finally sending away the great Buddha, her father called again. "Cece, your Aunt Gao told me that while staying at school you often spend nights out. Even your tutor has complained to her multiple times. Where are you right now? Come home and explain yourself immediately." Cece hadn't expected it. Since selling her off failed, her stepmother was already pulling tricks to frame her. That woman was endlessly cunning, always hiding behind the facade of a gentle, virtuous wife, deceiving both Cece and her father in her past life. And her father had never once doubted her. He had even chosen to believe the stepmother over his own biological daughter. Cece swore to herself that this time she would never let it happen again. She quickly explained, "I've never stayed out overnight, and if you don't believe me, you can go and check for yourself." But her stepmother had anticipated this. She had already told Father Yan that Cece would deny it, and even bribed the school to back her story, making it look like solid evidence. Cece knew this was all a deliberate trap. Last night's birthday banquet had shaken her stepmother's authority in the Yan household, so today she staged this act to drag Cece back under her thumb. And once she was home, she'd be under even tighter control. But this time, Cece was no longer the girl who could be so easily manipulated. Right now, she only wanted to return to school and uncover the truth. Once the facts were clear, everyone would know exactly who deserved to be slapped in the face. After being scolded by her father, the very next moment she received a transfer of 200,000 yuan in pocket money. Cece's eyes lit up instantly. She had just been worrying about how to afford a private investigator to dig into her vile stepmother. This money came at the perfect time, enough to cover the costs. But she thought carefully. Her stepmother was too cautious that if she sent someone to follow her directly, it would be too obvious and might even backfire. Her scumbag fiancé Lin Yan, however, was a different story. Since he was having an affair with her stepmother, tailing him wouldn't raise suspicion, and it might even lead to unexpected discoveries. Lin Yan was ambitious and promiscuous. The women around him certainly weren't limited to her stepmother. And knowing how prideful her stepmother was, what would happen if she found out she wasn't his only lover? If she could spark conflict between them, she could sit back and reap the benefits. The thought thrilled Yan Cece. She was eager to watch the tigers tear each other apart from the sidelines. That afternoon, Fu Jincheng personally delivered the phone Yan Cece had lost. She had just woken from a nightmare, one where she remembered the moment in her past life when she thought Lin Yan was her only salvation. But the scumbag had twisted her love and trust, luring her into an apartment where he and her stepmother joined hands to consign her to the flames. It wasn't just a dream, it was a shadow of the cruel reality she had lived before. Even now, recalling it left her trembling with dread. Entering the room, Fu Jincheng saw her shaking all over, clearly still trapped in the grip of the nightmare. He gently took her hand and placed it against his chest. "Don't be afraid, feel the rhythm of my heartbeat, it will calm your anxiety. The nightmare is over, they can't hurt you anymore, and I'll never allow them the chance to hurt you again." As her palm rested against him, the warmth and steady thrum of his heart soothed her more than she expected, sweeping away her lingering panic. It felt just like the first time she lay in his arms, an overwhelming sense of safety she thought she had lost forever. Thinking back on the catastrophe she had endured, her family's ruin, her own death, and her sudden rebirth, everything still felt surreal, almost like a dream. 220.it wasn't until she heard the steady beat of Fu Jincheng's heart while in his arms that reality finally sank in. Calming down, Yan Cece couldn't help but flash him an innocent, childlike smile. Fu Jincheng was elated. She had finally shown him such a smile, and it was for him. To fend off his family's pressure to marry, he proposed that Cece pretend to be his girlfriend. But the real reason was clear. He had fallen for her at first sight. To stake his claim, he even insisted on personally escorting her to school. Cece was shocked. "You're going to school? You're a billionaire, Sue, handsome and untouchable. If you show up there, the whole campus will explode with gossip." Fu Jincheng, however, answered with righteous certainty. "Of course I'll show up. Otherwise, why would I bother taking you myself? And if I don't, how will everyone know you're mine? Every other guy needs to give up right now. Besides," he added solemnly, "I'm too young to pose as your guardian. Naturally, I'll be going as your boyfriend." Cece froze in shock that he was rumored to avoid women altogether. So even if he liked her, surely he wouldn't be this blunt? She quickly protested, "Young Master Fu, that's not a funny joke." The last thing she wanted was to become the enemy of every girl in school. To keep from sounding too deliberate, Fu Jincheng gave himself an excuse. "I'll go to your school for 2 reasons. 1, to back you up, and 2, because I need your help with something. My family keeps pushing me to marry. Help me deal with my parents, and in return I'll grant you 3 requests." As the heir of a top-tier family, his claim about being pressured to marry sounded dubious to Cece. But just then his mother called. He deliberately put it on speaker, letting Cece hear firsthand the chaos of a high-society marriage push. Seeing her stunned expression, he knew his point had been made and promptly hung up the call. To think, even a lofty heir like him had such troubles, Cece had to bite her lip to keep from laughing. She agreed to his request but quickly added, "But you can't come with me to school, that's my first condition." She still wanted to attend classes in peace. With that, she hurriedly opened the photo album on her recovered phone. When she saw the one and only picture she had of her mother still intact, she finally let out a relieved sigh. When Fu Jincheng heard her whisper, "Mom," he instantly realized the person she cared about wasn't another man, and a surge of relief washed over him. As long as Yan Cece didn't already have a lover, his plan to win her over could officially begin. But Cece's mind was filled only with revenge. She immediately urged Fu Jincheng to fulfill the other two conditions as well. First, she suspected her stepmother had been poisoning her father's tea with a slow-acting toxin. Yet her father refused to believe her. She wanted to send the tea for testing at a specialized institution, then present him with undeniable proof. But such facilities were not open to the public. Second, her father had been poisoned for some time already. She wished to seek help from Xin Mingxiao, a legendary figure in the medical world. But he was nearly impossible to track down, something she had only discovered after her father's death in her past life. To her surprise, Fu Jincheng agreed without hesitation. That so-called legendary healer just happened to be one of his closest childhood friends. Before leaving, Fu Jincheng reminded Cece once more to play her role well as his girlfriend. He even suggested she practice in advance the little things couples would normally do. But the moment Cece returned to school, she was tripped up by one of her stepmother's planted informants. The dean of students eyed the Fu group stamp on her internship form with suspicion. But if it was real, there was no way he could afford to offend such a powerful name. In the end, he accepted the form and merely punished her with 3 laps around the track. Cece had barely started running when she ran into Chu Yinin, who had come looking for trouble. Because of that scumbag Lin Yan, Chu Yinin often sent her friends to suppress Cece. Even after being reborn, some things never changed. This time, they cornered her in a small grove, angrily accusing her of stealing the man Chu Yinin liked. But Cece showed no fear and shot back coldly. Lin Yan was openly my boyfriend to begin with. Isn't this a classic case of the thief crying stop thief? Let me tell you, this man I don't even want anymore. If you're so desperate for him, he's all yours. No need to make such a fuss. The group of girls, enraged, lunged forward to attack her. Her old wounds had already split open from running earlier, and now they tore even further, yet the girls still came at her with arrogance. Just then, Fu Jincheng stepped out of the grove. His presence alone sent a crushing pressure over them, freezing the girls in place. Though he wore a mask and sunglasses to conceal his identity, looking every bit like a dangerous figure, Yan Cece recognized him instantly. Seeing that she had been injured, Fu Jincheng's gaze turned sharp and lethal. He glared at the girls with such killing intent that they screamed in terror, begging for mercy. Cece quickly stopped him. Don't dirty your hands with people like them. Use the school's rules to deal with them instead. With that, he scooped her up and carried her straight toward the principal's office. The dean nearly jumped out of his skin at the sight of an unfamiliar man carrying an injured Cece into the office. I don't recall you being listed as her guardian. Put her down immediately, he barked. Then, lowering his voice to Cece, he whispered, if anything feels wrong, you must tell me. I promise the teachers will protect you. Watching Fu Jincheng being mistaken for a criminal, Cece couldn't help bursting into laughter. So hard it came out like a pig's squeal, with tears rolling down her face. She hurriedly explained, Teacher, he really is my guardian. It's just that our relationship is a little unusual. Still suspicious, the dean leaned in and whispered, Cece, are you sure you're not being forced? Fu Jincheng could no longer hold back his fury. He ripped off his mask and sunglasses and snapped, Take a good look at who I am. The dean's face drained of color. Who in Kyoto didn't know Fu Jincheng, the city's most powerful heir? So the Fu group stamp on Cece's form, it was real. Fu Jincheng continued coldly, From what I've heard, bullying has already taken place in this school. Don't you think it's time to clean things up? Intimidated by the knife-like sharpness in his gaze, the dean stammered out a promise to investigate thoroughly, then bolted out of the room in terror. Other teachers, burning with curiosity about their relationship, lurked outside the door to eavesdrop. Inside, Fu Jincheng prepared to treat Cece's wound himself, only to be firmly refused. After all, they were alone and the injured area was far too sensitive. He countered shamelessly, Don't forget you're acting as my girlfriend right now. Your body is technically on loan to me, so if you're hurt, I have every right to take care of it. Faced with his angry yet serious expression, Cece finally relented. To her surprise, this imposing man handled her injuries with remarkable gentleness. For the first time, Cece was touched by his tenderness, her heart quietly softening. If I were truly his girlfriend, I'd probably be the happiest woman in the world, Cece thought to herself. After tending to her wounds, Fu Jincheng suddenly realized he had crossed a line. He quickly covered his face and turned away. Cece noticed his hand was burning hot. Thinking he had a fever, she reached out to check his forehead. But Fu Jincheng caught her wrist at once and warned coldly, "Don't touch me unless you're ready to face the consequences." Just as he was about to lean closer, a noise came from outside the door. He immediately scooped her up and strode toward it. Swinging the door open, he found the dean crouched outside, eavesdropping. Flustered, the dean scrambled to cover himself, hurriedly shifting the topic back to the bullying incident, insisting he was already investigating it. Once the two had left, however, the dean's nose started bleeding uncontrollably. Muttering to himself, he said, "I heard everything just now. Yan Cece, you're one lucky girl." When Fu Jincheng carried Cece back home, the household staff were utterly stunned. "Good heavens, it's a real girl. Did we see that right? Young master actually brought a woman home, and in his arms no less. Does this mean the villa will finally have a mistress? Our young master. He actually has a girlfriend." The servants burst into tears of joy. Fu Jincheng gently placed Cece down inside and told her firmly to rest well. But Cece's face was full of alarm. "I feel like your family is about to eat me alive." Being gawked at like some rare animal made her unbearably uncomfortable. She even started to doubt herself. "Do I look that strange or something?" Fu Jincheng thought helplessly, "No, it's because you're too cute. They're just overjoyed. And after all my mother's nagging about marriage, even the staff have been swept up in it." Wanting to keep her by his side longer, he used the excuse of protecting her safety, suggesting she stay at his house for the time being. He promised he would soon find a legendary doctor to help her father. To his surprise, Cece obediently agreed. The sight of her being so sweet and docile made Fu Jincheng's heart race. He almost wished he could keep her here forever. After giving his instructions, he finally stepped out of the bedroom. A short while later, a maid knocked on Cece's door, saying she had been sent by the young master to take care of her. But Cece politely declined. "I'm not used to being waited on." Besides, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about the people here was a little off. The maid, however, was secretly delighted. Being the very first person to personally serve the young madam was an honor beyond belief. In an unfamiliar environment, Cece found herself unable to sleep. She had just stepped out for some air when a maid suddenly rushed over, pleading, "Miss, please stay in bed, and if you need anything, just call us." The young master ordered that you mustn't leave the room. If anything happens, we'll be fired. Seeing the maid on the verge of tears, Cece didn't want to make things harder for her and turned back. Just then Fu Jincheng returned home. Though exhaustion weighed heavily on him, the moment his eyes fell on Cece, all his fatigue seemed to melt away. "About your father, I'll tell you tomorrow. It's late now, you should rest first." But the mention of her father made Cece tense. She insisted firmly, "No, tell me now. Otherwise, I won't sleep a wink tonight. I promise once you're done, I'll go straight to bed." Helpless against her determination, Fu Jincheng relented. "I already had someone secretly take samples of the tea leaves from your house and send them for testing. At the same time, I've got people watching your stepmother's every move. If anything happens, you'll be the first to know." Cece's eyes sharpened instantly. Once the tests revealed poison and she had evidence against her stepmother, her father could finally be saved. After the girl finally drifted into sleep, the CO turned to leave. But the very next second, his eyes fell on Cece's seductive sleeping posture, and he instantly lost his composure. Bringing her home was definitely the right move. With a sleep position this alluring, "I can't let anyone else see her like this," he thought. Just then Cece began to talk in her sleep. "Dad, we're saved. Fu Xiao, thank you." Hearing this, Fu Jincheng froze mid-step, then leaned down and whispered, "Thank me? And how exactly do you plan to thank me?" But Cece only rolled over and sank back into slumber. His eyes turned hazy. "Cece, what I really want is..." Before he could finish, her hand suddenly flew up and smacked him across the face. "Mosquito, go away," she mumbled. Turns out she had mistaken him for a mosquito. The next morning, after finally enjoying a peaceful night's sleep, Cece walked leisurely downstairs. When she saw Fu Jincheng's swollen face, she gasped. "Fu Xiao, you got hit." He hadn't expected that even after urgent treatment, the red mark would still be so obvious. Cece exaggerated dramatically, shouting, "Who dares to hit our mighty young master Fu? I'll teach them a lesson. Touch my savior and I'll make them pay." Fu Jincheng's heart thundered. The person who hit me was you. But he dared not say it aloud, not after the improper thoughts he'd had about her last night. Forcing himself to remain calm, he said lightly, "Thank you for your concern, Miss Yan, that I just bumped into something by accident." Cece frowned in confusion, stepping closer. "Bumped into something? Does it still hurt? And how could you even hit that spot?" Embarrassment shot through Fu Jincheng. He jumped to his feet, thinking, wasn't last night's teasing enough? Does she have to torment me first thing in the morning too? Using work as an excuse, he hastily left the dining room. Completely unaware, Cece only grew more puzzled. The mark on his face definitely didn't look like something from a bump. That evening, Fu Jincheng handed Cece the lab report on her father's tea and informed her that he had already reached out to the doctor she wanted. He asked when she wanted to begin treatment. Her hands trembled as she read the results. The exact same as in her previous life. Her father had indeed been poisoned by the same slow-acting toxin, the very one that had left him bedridden until he died. Now what she needed was solid proof that her stepmother had planted the poison, and then to expose her in front of her father. In her heart she swore fiercely. This time she would never let the tragedy repeat itself. Dressed in a sleek black silk dress, Cece accompanied the CEO to the gala. Fu Jincheng was instantly captivated, his mind wandering to dangerous places before he snapped himself back to reality. "This outfit is far too suggestive. I can't let anyone else see her like this." With that excuse, he told her the dress was no good and ordered her to change. Cece protested in confusion, "But I think it looks great. Why change?" Yet Fu Jincheng ignored her feelings completely, replying coldly, "It's not about what you think, it's about what I think." Cece was left baffled. How can a man switch faces so quickly? Truly, a man's heart is impossible to read. With no other choice, she picked out another dress and shyly asked for his opinion. This time he studied her carefully. The neckline wasn't too low, everything that needed covering was well covered. Her chest and legs wrapped up properly, perfect. At last, he nodded in approval. Only when he knew no one else could sneak a glance at her delicate skin did he finally breathe easy. At the charity gala, Fu Jincheng walked in with Cece on his arm. It was the first time he had ever appeared with a date, and the scene instantly caused a stir. Every pair of eyes turned toward them. Cece felt a little restrained, like a monkey on display for everyone to gawk at. Noticing her unease, Fu Jincheng leaned in and reassured her softly, "Don't be nervous. Just smile and nod when people greet you. Leave the rest to me." Feeling his careful attention, Cece straightened up and tried her best to play the role of his girlfriend. But just then, her stepmother had already set her sights on her. Seeing Cece appear here dressed so lavishly made her grit her teeth in hatred. After all her recent schemes had fallen apart, she was certain it must have been Fu Jincheng secretly backing Cece, thwarting her at every turn. So she deliberately slandered Cece in front of her father, claiming she was being kept by Fu Jincheng, hoping to use Yan's father to drive the two apart. Fortunately, her father didn't believe his daughter would do such a thing, though he did worry about the vast gap in their social status. He feared that if Fu Jincheng's feelings were only a passing whim, the one left hurt in the end would be Cece. At last, Cece slipped outside to breathe some fresh air, only to hear her stepmother's voice behind her. "Well, if it isn't my good daughter, skipping school and shamelessly clinging to Fu Xiao, as your mother, I can't help but feel ashamed of you." Cece shot back coldly, "You're just my stepmother. I only have one real mother. To slander me in front of my father. You even went so far as to collude with the school." Her eyes sharpened as she pressed on, "You know the fate of the one who sided with you last time, don't you? Now no one dares to work with you. You must be losing sleep at night, yet here you are still putting on an act. Aunt Gao, the mouth is a wonderful thing. It's meant for eating, not for spitting filth. Don't get that mixed up." Gao Suya was struck speechless. The next second, however, she switched tactics, softening her tone and pretending it was all for Cece's own good. Cece sneered inwardly. Of course, she's putting on a show for an audience. Sure enough, her father's voice suddenly rang out from behind them. Gao Suya immediately rushed forward, complaining to Yan's father, "How could someone of Fu Xiao's status ever truly like Cece? I'm only worried she'll be deceived." She even urged him to quickly find a suitable match from a family of equal standing, so Cece would come back to her senses. But behind this facade of concern was her true intention: to marry Cece off to someone aligned with her, ensuring the girl would never rise above her station. Yet Cece was no longer the timid girl of her past life. She had already anticipated this little performance. This time she was more than ready to play along and strike back. Cece cut straight to the point. It's the modern era. Are you seriously still trying to arrange marriages? Aren't you afraid people will laugh themselves silly? She pressed further, her tone sharp. Being connected to the Fu family would only benefit the Yans, so why are you so desperate to split us apart? No hidden agenda, really? Once again, Gao Xia was left speechless, but she quickly donned her mask of a caring mother, insisting she only acted out of concern. Her facade was flawless. As always, Yan's father chose to believe in her good intentions, even going so far as to tell Cece to apologize in her past life. That same saintly wife act had fooled everyone, but not this time. Cece turned on her heel and said coldly, I've done nothing wrong. Why should I apologize? Her father frowned in confusion. Cece, you've always been obedient and well-behaved. What's gotten into you today? That single remark ignited her anger. If not for being too obedient in her past life, she would never have ended up with her family destroyed. Just then, Fu Jincheng approached with a glass of red wine in hand. At the sight of him, both stepmother and daughter nearly buckled at the knees, muttering excuses as they tried to slip away. But Fu Jincheng stopped them in their tracks. Cece is my legitimate girlfriend, he declared. The reason I brought her here tonight is to introduce her to the entire business world. Faced with Fu Jincheng's overwhelming aura, Gao Xia had no choice but to cower, forcing a stiff smile as she offered hollow words of respect and blessing. With that, she quickly dragged Yan's father away in embarrassment. To fend off his family's constant matchmaking, Fu Jincheng kept making Cece pose as his girlfriend. But secretly, Cece even wished his mother would just bribe her with 5 million to leave him. Instead, Fu Jincheng leaned in with a teasing smile. 5 million? Don't you think that's a little low? What I want to give you is far more than that. Pretending she was just his girlfriend was nothing but a cover. His true plan was to let his mother help push her into his arms. After all, his mother's requirements for a daughter-in-law were simple. As long as she was alive, she'd be overjoyed, eager to announce it to the world. It took Cece a while to realize how intimate their posture looked. She quickly pushed him back, demanding he tell her what kind of woman his mother actually liked so she could prepare. But Fu Jincheng pulled her close again, his voice low. What if I said she likes seductive women who know how to enchant men? Could you play that role? Cece actually paused to think seriously, assuming he was challenging her acting skills. Completely unaware she was walking straight into his trap. In the next second, she slipped effortlessly into character, gazing up at him with sultry eyes. Young Master Fu, what do you think of Cece? Want to spend the night with me? Watching her so alluring, Fu Jincheng couldn't stop himself from blurting, You'd make a very convincing temptress. What started as him humoring her little act spiraled out of control. Before he knew it, he had pulled her tightly into his arms. Only when he felt her trembling against him did he snap back to reality, releasing her at once, frustration flashing in his eyes at his own impatience. Cece turned her face away, unwilling to let him see her in such a vulnerable state. Deep down, Cece knew she didn't dislike Fu Jincheng's embrace, but she hadn't yet realized she was already falling in love. When they returned to the gala hall, a crowd of business elites immediately surrounded Fu Jincheng. Seeing how busy he was, Cece wisely slipped away. She had just picked up a glass of red wine when a refined-looking man approached, smiling as he invited her out for skewers after the event. Cece refused outright. A foreigner who spoke fluent Chinese and even knew about street food like skewers. He clearly wasn't someone simple. As she tried to walk away, the man caught up quickly and grabbed her arm, smirking. I know this game of push and pull. Let's just get what we want from each other. One night, and no one has to contact anyone again. Don't you Chinese girls love foreigners? He leaned in, aiming for a kiss. Cornered, Cece threw her glass of wine straight into his face. Sorry, but I'm not the kind of woman you think I am. I won't play along. The man's expression darkened, snapping, Do you even know who I am? Throwing wine on me? You won't survive in this circle. Onlookers quickly gathered, whispering, Isn't that the heir of that luxury brand family? This could get messy. Might even turn into an international scandal. Luckily, Fu Jincheng arrived just in time, his cold gaze sweeping over the scene. Cece immediately pointed at the blonde man and shouted, He's the one who tried to take advantage of me. The man sneered arrogantly, I was giving you an opportunity. Do you know how many women would kill to be in your place? You should feel honored I even noticed you. Fu Jincheng's fury erupted. Looks like our cooperation with your company ends here. Apologize to my girlfriend, now. The blonde man still sneered arrogantly. Who the hell are you to yell at me? The onlookers gasped. Does he not even know Fu Xiao? He's finished. The next second, his father stormed in and slapped him hard across the face. The once arrogant young master instantly cowered before his father's wrath. After scolding his son, the man hurried to apologize to Fu Jincheng, pleading that the partnership still be reconsidered. He knew full well. China was the largest market. To survive here, they had to work with the Fu group. Losing it would be catastrophic. Fu Jincheng's gaze turned ice cold. That brat is your son? Once he got confirmation, Fu Jincheng simply turned away. If you can't even discipline your own child, there's no point in cooperating. Goodbye. The Fu group was the main benefactor of the gala. Fu Xiao's abrupt departure jeopardized many people's interests, sparking outrage across the hall. As for the father and son, they were destined to pay dearly for this humiliation. Inside the car, Fu Jincheng replayed the blonde man's words to Cece, his teeth grinding in fury. But Cece misunderstood, thinking he was angry at her. After all, as Fu Xiao's girlfriend, being openly harassed in front of the international elite must have shamed him deeply. With that thought, she quickly apologized, promising to be more careful next time and avoid causing such trouble again. The moment she said next time, Fu Jincheng snapped, his voice sharp with anger. Next time? Just how many times do you expect something like this to happen? Cece froze, startled by his sudden outburst, and guilt quickly welled up inside her that he's done so much for me, yet I can't even play the role of his girlfriend properly. Seeing the stunned look on her face, Fu Jincheng hurried to rein himself in, lowering his voice. I'm sorry that I wasn't angry at you. Cece blinked in confusion. Then, what are you angry about? Fu Jincheng shot back. You really don't know why. You honestly don't understand? That's when it finally hit her. Was he jealous? Just as Fu Jincheng leaned closer, ready to show her exactly why he was upset, the driver suddenly slammed on the brakes. Fu Jincheng growled in frustration. What's going on? The driver stammered nervously. There was an accident ahead. The road's blocked. The air inside the car turned unbearably charged, a mix of tension and unspoken intimacy. Covering her mouth in disbelief, Cece thought to herself, did Fu Xiao really just get jealous? Back at the mansion, she muttered a quick good night to him before darting straight into her room to hide. Thinking back to Fu Jincheng's expression just moments ago, Cece's heart thumped wildly. Could it be, he actually likes me? But then she shook her head. No, I'm overthinking. That's just wishful thinking. Flustered, she slapped her own cheeks lightly, forcing herself to calm down. The next morning, headlines exploded across every major platform. Fu Jincheng rages for a beauty. His name dominated the news. Reading the reports, Madame Fu snorted. So this is the girl Fu Jincheng has his eye on? The butler cautiously asked. Yes, madam. How would you like to proceed? Madame Fu's face remained stern as if weighing her options. But in the very next second, her expression flipped to sheer delight. If only I'd gone to that gala yesterday, I could have seen my daughter-in-law in person, and these blurry photos are useless. I can't see a thing. Without hesitation, she snatched up her phone and called her son. Fu Jincheng, listen to me. I don't care what you're doing. Bring your girlfriend home immediately, or I'll disown you as my son. Fu Jincheng sighed helplessly. She needs rest right now. Madame Fu pressed urgently. Then tomorrow. Bring her tomorrow. I'll cook a feast myself. No excuses. And with that, she hung up the phone decisively. Madame Fu was already daydreaming. If they could just get the marriage certificate tomorrow, then have a chubby little grandson soon after, she could finally become a proud grandmother. The thought alone thrilled her. Her top priority now was to reel her future daughter-in-law in as quickly as possible. It seemed the entire Fu family had a flair for drama. Even the maids, after delivering a dress, were already blushing and giggling, fantasizing about the young couple doing something intimate. Cece was utterly baffled by their bizarre behavior. Knowing she was about to meet her future mother-in-law, she quickly slipped into the dress the maid had brought. Gazing at her reflection, she couldn't help but whisper, "No wonder, it must have been hand-picked by Fu Jincheng." Since he took this meeting so seriously, she would have to put in effort too and play the role of his girlfriend convincingly. What Cece didn't realize was that she wasn't just helping him fend off family pressure today. She was the lamb being led to the slaughter. For once Madame Fu knew her son had a girlfriend, she would turn into his strongest ally, pushing relentlessly until he had Cece locked down. It was all part of Fu Jincheng's plan. As soon as they stepped into the Fu family's old mansion, Madame Fu's booming voice echoed down the hall. "You brat, what took you so long? Do you know how long I've been waiting?" But the very next second, Madame Fu froze mid-action, dropped the spatula, and her face instantly softened into a sweet smile. "Daughter-in-law, you're here." She flipped moods faster than turning a page. Being called daughter-in-law at their very first meeting left Cece completely dumbfounded, frozen on the spot. Fu Jincheng quickly stepped forward to stop his mother. "Mom, you don't need to cook." But Madame Fu patted her chest proudly. "Nonsense. My daughter-in-law is here. I must cook personally so she can taste her mother-in-law's cooking." Cece's worldview nearly collapsed on the spot. Weren't rich mothers-in-law supposed to be cold and terrifying? Why does this one feel nothing like the TV dramas? It took her a long moment to recover before she finally stammered out, "Hello, Auntie." To her shock, Madame Fu grabbed her wrist with teary eyes. "Good. My son has finally grown up. Last he's acting like a normal man and found himself a wife." Cece blinked, completely lost at her words. Madame Fu went on, "Jincheng has been known as a prodigy in the elite circle since childhood, skipping grades all the way, admitted into an Ivy League university at just 14. While other kids were still playing with mud at 10, he was already reading economics and English. By his 20s, when everyone else was starting families, he buried himself in work. No matter how many times I urged him, he wouldn't listen. I even feared he'd never marry at all." After listening to Madame Fu pour out her woes, Cece had no idea how to comfort her. After a long pause, she finally managed, "It really hasn't been easy for you." Madame Fu instantly brightened. "At least my daughter-in-law understands me." She pulled Cece straight to the dining table. "Look, I made this to welcome you." One glance at the spread of culinary disasters left Cece completely dumbfounded. Though it was obvious this was a table of dark cuisine, she couldn't bring herself to reject Madame Fu's good intentions. In the end, simply hugged her tight and declared firmly, "What do you mean not close? I've already decided. You're the daughter-in-law of this family. No one else will do." Seeing this, Fu Jincheng broke into a satisfied smile. Just as he expected, his mother and Cece were already bonding. His plan had taken another step forward, making it even easier to marry her. Suddenly, Madame Fu's eyes lit up as if she'd remembered something. She darted out of the room in a hurry. Minutes later, she returned carrying a huge box overflowing with jewelry, setting it right in front of Cece. The girl froze in shock. "What on earth is all this?" Madame Fu explained proudly, "These are the heirlooms given to me by the old Madame Fu when I first married into the family." She picked up a jade bracelet and started rambling on about its history. "These treasures have been passed down through generations. Every daughter-in-law of the Fu family must have them." As she spoke, she shoved the items into Cece's hands. "You must keep them safe." And that wasn't all. She then pulled out several property deeds for villas and shops, tossing them in as a welcome gift. Cece was completely petrified by this over-the-top generosity. She thought that was the end of it, until Madame Fu added, "If that's still not enough, just tell me that I'll prepare you a no-limit black card." Without missing a beat, she pressed eagerly, "So when are you two getting the marriage certificate? I've been waiting for this day for far too long." Cece was already so shell-shocked by the wealth bomb that she couldn't process anything anymore. She had only come here to play the role of a fake girlfriend. So how did she end up inheriting half the family fortune? After staring blankly for a while, she finally snapped back and stammered, "These things are way too valuable. I can't accept them." But Madame Fu, with her wild imagination, misunderstood and thought Cece simply didn't like them. "Then tell me what you do like. Whatever it is, I'll make it happen." Without missing a beat, she launched into another question. "What kind of decor do you like? Jincheng's private residence is far too cold and lifeless. If it's going to be your wedding home, we'll need to renovate immediately. Can't delay the marriage." The moment she mentioned marriage, Madame Fu grew even more excited, already talking about booking an international top-tier wedding dress team. Cece was utterly dumbfounded. That wasn't the stereotype supposed to be the mother-in-law throwing a check in your face to make you leave? But this one was moving way too fast in the opposite direction. Desperate, she shot Fu Jincheng a pleading look, silently begging him to rein his mother in. Yet Fu Jincheng sat there with a look of complete detachment, sipping his tea as if none of this concerned him. Only after a long pause did he finally remark lazily, "Mom, don't scare her." Madame Fu immediately snapped back, "What? Do you have a problem with me?" Just as Cece thought she was finally saved, Fu Jincheng stood up and said, "I've got work to do. You two carry on without me." Left with no choice, Cece hurriedly pulled Fu Jincheng aside. She whispered in frustration, "You never told me your mom was like this. And you're not even helping. How am I supposed to accept all of this?" Fu Jincheng looked innocent. "Honestly, I think you'd better accept it. Otherwise, you're not getting out of here today. Just look behind you." Cece turned and saw Madame Fu staring at them with starry eyes, her whole face practically spelling out perfect match. A chill ran down Cece's spine. Determined, she said firmly, "We're only pretending to be a couple. All of this should be reserved for his future real wife." Fu Jincheng fell silent for a moment before replying calmly, "You are my future real wife." Inwardly, he added with a dangerous thought, "If I could, I'd keep you all to myself." Madame Fu, meanwhile, went even further, not only offering jewelry and property deeds, but also declaring she'd give Cece shares of the Fu group. "Just sign here. Once you're married, you'll officially be part of the Fu family business." Cece's jaw nearly hit the floor. "Wait, shares of the Fu group? You can just hand those out like pocket money?" Madame Fu was secretly overjoyed, thinking smugly, "What a brilliant idea. Using company shares as bait. I'm a genius. This way, Cece and Jincheng will have to get married soon. Just imagining it makes me giddy." Cece, on the other hand, broke into a cold sweat. "Auntie, there's really no need for this. Jincheng and I are only dating. If we don't end up together, wouldn't this be a huge loss for you?" As soon as she said that, she shot Fu Jincheng a desperate look for help. There was no way she could sign a share transfer like this. If the truth came out one day, she'd be branded a fraud. After all, she had just been reborn. The last thing she wanted was to end up in prison, working a sewing machine for the rest of her life. Madame Fu caught her expression and seemed to misunderstand, suddenly standing up with a sharp glare. "Fu Jincheng, I'm warning you, don't you dare abandon Cece. You two must stay together forever, do you hear me?" Left with no choice, Fu Jincheng promised in front of his mother that he would never abandon her. But to Cece, that wasn't the issue. The real problem was how to convince Madame Fu to take those terrifying shares back. Hearing her son's vow, Madame Fu grew even more excited. "See, he won't abandon you, and if he does, I'll break his legs myself. Now hurry up and sign." To Cece's horror, after all that, they had circled right back to square one. Nearly fainting, she was steadied by Fu Jincheng, who whispered, "Just sign it. Otherwise, my mom won't let this go. We have to sell the act all the way." Under the combined pressure of both mother and son, Cece finally forced herself to sign her name on the agreement. The moment she did, she froze in shock. Any one of these gifts was worth half the entire Yan family fortune. This level of extravagance is insane. Fu Jincheng, meanwhile, wore a smug smile, thinking to himself, "Now you've got no way to run." After signing, Cece cautiously asked, "So, can I leave now? If I stay any longer, who knows what terrifying things Madame Fu will try to give me next." Sure enough, Madame Fu immediately grabbed her wrist. "Didn't we agree to go shopping?" A chill ran down Cece's spine. "Don't tell me this means more gifts?" Before she could protest, she was already being dragged away. Fu Jincheng, of course, didn't intervene. Knowing his mother, she was bound to shower Cece with gifts. And the more his mother spoiled her, the deeper Cece's guilt toward the Fu family would grow, making her that much easier for him to win over. Cece soon lost track of how many stores they had already visited. Then Madame Fu casually suggested, "Let's buy a few more handbags." Terrified, Cece quickly stopped her. "Please, no more. These are already enough to last me a lifetime. I don't even have space to put them." Madame Fu brushed it off. "The walk-in closets at home are all yours. You can wear a different one every day." Once again, Cece was utterly defeated. Remembering Fu Jincheng's warning, "Play the role to the end, don't break character," she suddenly felt like she'd boarded a pirate ship. Pretending to be his girlfriend was turning out to be way harder than she thought. Before she could recover, Madame Fu leaned in with a gossip-hungry look. Tell me, how did you and Jincheng meet? Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. I've never seen him this close to any girl before. You're the first, that he must really like you. Hearing those words, Cece's heartbeat suddenly quickened. Could it be, does Fu Jincheng really have feelings for me? In her mind, an image of him confessing to her flashed uncontrollably. She quickly shook herself out of it. No, don't get carried away, stay calm. Madame Fu suddenly interrupted her thoughts. Cece, you have to hold on tight to his heart. Men need a little push and pull. Keep him wanting and he'll love you so much he won't be able to let go. She burst into proud laughter as she said it. Cece couldn't help teasing. Auntie, is that how you got Uncle Fu? Madame Fu puffed up with pride. Of course. Look at him now, still firmly under my control. When they finally returned home, Cece was stunned by the sight of the living room piled high with clothes. She knew they had bought a lot, but she never imagined this much. It looked like they had emptied out an entire shopping mall. Just as she was still reeling, Madame Fu patted her arm gently and said she should stay the night. No need, Auntie. I'm still a student, and the school's pretty strict that if I don't go back tonight, the teachers will punish me. In truth, she simply couldn't sit still any longer. Every extra minute here felt like adding another mountain of debt on her back. She had to come up with an excuse to escape. Madame Fu even mimicked Cece, acting all pitiful and clingy until she finally persuaded her to stay. She went so far as to pounce on her, leaving Cece no choice but to agree. Just then Fu Jincheng walked out, only to catch the two of them in such an unrefined position. He actually got jealous of his own mother. Get off her. That trick might work on Dad, but don't you dare use it on Cece. Madame Fu put on a sulky face, but inwardly she was delighted. Fine, I'll go get your room ready. She leaned close to whisper a secret to Cece. Once you two live together, make sure to sleep in separate rooms. Then change into something beautiful every day. Let him look but not touch. Of course, if he knocks on your door at midnight, giving him a little taste isn't a bad idea either. Trust me, that's how you keep a man wrapped around your finger. Her ultimate goal was clear. She just wanted a grandson as soon as possible. After his mother left, Fu Jincheng suddenly asked, So, are you really planning to? This was what it felt like to be overwhelmed by a billionaire's glow. Fu Jincheng added with a cool smirk, If you really insist on returning them, the only outcome is my mother finding out. And trust me, she'll just send you something even more expensive. Just picturing Madame Fu's unstoppable momentum, Cece shivered. That really could happen. Left with no choice, she reluctantly accepted the gifts. To ease her guilt, Fu Jincheng put on his signature arrogant air. Relax. To the Fu family, this is nothing but a drop in the ocean. Don't tell me such a small gesture already scares you. I'm just not used to it, Cece murmured. But in his heart, Fu Jincheng swore, You'll get used to it, Cece. One day you'll be my rightful wife. Pulling her into his arms, he leaned close and teased, If you really feel guilty, there are other ways you can make it up to me. Cece panicked instantly. Wait, no way. I can play along, but I don't sell my body. Fu Jincheng suddenly released her, pretending to sound casual. Relax. I'm not interested in flat figures. The word flat instantly lit Cece's fuse. She prided herself on her curves, well above average. How on earth could he call her flat? Meanwhile, Madame Fu pulled another god-tier assist, lying that there was only one bedroom left in the house, just to speed up the baby-making plan. And to top it off, she was now eavesdropping right outside the door. The air inside grew unbearably awkward. 1 bed, 2 people. What are we supposed to do? Take turns on the floor. Cece's mind was in chaos. After a long silence, she abruptly stood up. I'll just go sleep in the living room. But Fu Jincheng caught her hand immediately, whispering, Don't. She's still outside. Cece froze, her face darkening. So Madame Fu really was camping at the door. Turns out that only one room excuse was totally deliberate. Fu Jincheng said calmly, If you go out now, she'll just find another excuse to drag you back. But if we make some satisfying noises, maybe she'll leave sooner. Cece blinked in confusion. Satisfying noises? What kind of noises? Like exercise sounds. Before she could react, he pulled her straight onto the bed. Her face turned bright red, completely misunderstanding his intention. He's really going to? She was about to protest. But Fu Jincheng suddenly chuckled. Relax. I meant sit-ups. We'll take turns. Cece froze in embarrassment. It really was the literal meaning. She wanted nothing more than to dig a hole and disappear. He nudged her playfully. Stop dawdling. Hold my legs, I'm starting now. Soon the bed creaked rhythmically with every move. In the end, Cece actually cranked out 62 sit-ups in a row. By noon the next day, when she finally dragged herself out of bed, Madame Fu had already ordered the chef to prepare a feast, every dish a high-energy tonic. Cece couldn't help but ask, "Auntie, isn't this way too much food? It's just the two of us. Jincheng left for work early this morning. This is all for me?" Madame Fu beamed and waved her over. "You got up so late. You must have been exhausted last night. Eat more, you need to recover." At those words, Cece's face turned pale. Wait, does she think? She almost blurted out that nothing happened, but the memory of those overly intimate moments made her choke back the explanation. Seeing her reaction, Madame Fu was overjoyed, happily piling food into her bowl. "Eat, eat, eat. You must replenish yourself." Then she proudly added, "I was right outside the door last night. I heard something. My grandchild is not far away now, ha." She looked so thrilled she could burst. Just then, Cece's phone rang. It was her father. "Cece, I've always felt guilty toward you. Do you have time? I want to talk with you properly this time." Her chest tightened. She had never truly blamed her father. After all, her stepmother always acted the perfect wife in front of him, and in her past life she too had been deceived completely. Cece arranged to meet her father at their usual tea house. It was time to lay everything out. After saying a quick goodbye to Madame Fu, she hurried off. Madame Fu watched her leave with worry. She barely ate a thing. How can her body handle this? The butler couldn't help but mutter, "Madam, you really like that girl. Invite her often if you wish, but this whole table of tonics. Forget Miss Yan, I feel overwhelmed just looking at it. You should take it easy." As soon as father and daughter met, her father sighed. "If Fu Jincheng truly cares for you, of course I'd be happy. But the Fu family's status is far beyond ours. Their waters run deep, Cece, you'd better keep your distance." Cece replied firmly that she and Fu Jincheng were only helping each other, nothing more. That if it weren't for her stepmother, she wouldn't need to cooperate with him at all. Still, she couldn't help recalling Madame Fu's playful, almost adorable side. Perhaps the Fu family wasn't as terrifying as the outside world claimed. Her father went on, "Your Aunt Gao was wrong and I apologize on her behalf. Cece, just come home and live with us. From now on, let's be a family again." Cece's expression darkened instantly. "Dad, you still see her as family?" She slapped 2 lab reports onto the table. "Take a good look. Both kinds of poison were found in the tea you drink every single day." Her father's face went pale. "She poisoned me? How did you even get these test results?" After all, Cece hadn't been home recently. He couldn't understand how she managed to get samples tested, and deep down he refused to believe it was true. Cece's voice was cold. "I have my ways. These results are from an accredited institute. If you don't believe me, collect some tea yourself. I'll take you to get it tested." It was time for her father to face reality. He wasn't doubting his daughter. He simply couldn't accept that his own wife could do such a thing. Seeing more words were useless, Cece urged, "She makes your tea every night. That you'll have plenty of chances to check it yourself." After leaving the tea house, she immediately called Fu Jincheng, asking him to contact the legendary Dr. Shen Lingxiao to treat her father. But the overbearing Xiao's pursuit only grew bolder. Halfway through dinner, he suddenly pinned Cece against the table and kissed her hard. And that still wasn't enough. What he really wanted was to see her completely unravel in his arms. But out of nowhere, Cece's stomach churned violently, and the next second she threw up all over him. She collapsed on the floor and fell fast asleep. Fu Jincheng sighed helplessly, carried her back to the bedroom and swore to himself, "Tomorrow I'll get your answer. That I won't let you run away again." When Cece woke up, she found a note on her bedside. "Come see me when you wake up. We need to continue last night's conversation." She froze for a long moment before it hit her. Last night she had thrown up all over him. He must be looking for payback. Am I even going to survive this? Panicking, she quickly changed clothes and rushed back to school. Better to wait until he cools down before apologizing. Safer that way. The moment she stepped onto campus, she noticed the stares. Her classmates looked at her as if she were some untouchable figure. Normally, this would be the time when Chu Yinin's gang showed up to pick on her. But today, not a single trace of them. She even bumped into a student by accident, and the other person bowed at a full 90 degrees to apologize first. Still puzzled, Cece was stopped by her best friend Xiao Xiao, who explained that the bullies who used to torment her had all been expelled a few days ago. Several teachers connected to them had also been dismissed. Even though the Chu family was one of the school's major sponsors, not even Chu Yinin herself could save them. Xiao Xiao gasped dramatically, "Cece, you're like the boss of the whole school now. Since when were you this powerful? Being around you makes me feel so safe." Hearing Xiao Xiao's words, Cece suddenly remembered. Fu Jincheng had promised to take care of things at school. She never expected him to clean house this thoroughly. Meanwhile, hidden in the corner, Chu Yinin watched with seething rage, her nails digging into her palms until they nearly broke. Her friends advised Chu Yinin to drop it, reminding her that this mess had already dragged the Chu family down. But Yinin refused to let go. She swore she'd find another chance to strike back. After school, Cece was secretly relieved that a whole day's passed. Fu Jincheng must have cooled down by now. I'll just make up some excuse. And if he's working overtime, even better. The very next second, she spotted him standing right at the school gate, waiting quietly. Cece froze, then tried to sneak away, but was caught red-handed. She forced a nervous smile. "Let's talk this out, okay?" Without a word, Fu Jincheng led her into the small grove near campus, demanding she recall exactly what happened last night. Terrified, Cece cried out, "I only threw up on you because I was drunk." But he suddenly slammed his hand against the wall beside her, caging her in. "That's it? You only remember that much?" Her mind went blank. "Wait, did I do something even worse last night? Is that why he chased me all the way to school?" She stammered, "Whatever I did, it was unconscious. Please don't take it seriously." His eyes darkened. "Unconscious? So when you said you liked me, that was unconscious too? So you're not planning to take responsibility?" Cece was completely lost, her thoughts spinning out of control. Fu Jincheng smirked. "Looks like I'll have to help jog your memory." With that, he leaned down and forcefully pressed his lips to hers, stealing a kiss under the guise of artificial respiration. When he finally pulled back, he asked coldly, "Now, do you remember?" Cece's face burned with shame. "Did I really say I liked him and even kissed him? What kind of nonsense was that?" Fu Jincheng's eyes lit up. "So you do remember?" She panicked. "That was drunken nonsense. Don't take it seriously." But he refused to let go, pressing forward with a sudden confession. "Cece, I like you. I want to hear your answer from your own lips." Hearing the word like spoken so directly, Cece forced herself to calm down. "Fu Xiao, that joke isn't funny. Aren't we just partners?" Deep down, she knew too well. Believing in love meant losing control, throwing herself into someone else's arms, and ending up shattered. That hadn't her previous life already taught her that lesson in blood? In this life, she would never hand over her heart again. Her love was the most unreliable, dangerous thing of all. When her body suddenly trembled, Fu Jincheng finally realized he had pushed too hard. She had been guarding herself all along. So he shifted the subject with a wry smile. "Forget it. Let's not talk about that. But about the suit you threw up on, worth tens of thousands. How do you plan on compensating me? Seems your workload just got heavier."